Hi, everybody. I'm so happy you're here tonight. I know you can see me and I can't see you. And a lot of you had reached out to me and said, am I going to be on camera? And so, no, tonight you're not, but there is, as many of you have already done, there is a chat here. So thank you so much for saying hello, everybody. So I want to respect your time here tonight on a Friday night. So let's dive in. I just want to welcome you to this live, to those of you watching live, and to those of you that are watching the replay. So I know a lot of you signed up and couldn't make it tonight, but the replay will go out to all of you afterwards. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sally Harris. I am a mom who walked a difficult road with my own daughter, and I'll be sharing more about my story later. But right now, I want to celebrate you for coming to this event, because I know that this very well could be outside of your comfort zone, but I know that you are open-minded or you wouldn't be here. So I really want to be able to chat with each other as much as possible here, like you said, like you guys are. Hello in Nova Scotia. Oh my goodness, US. That's the beauty of online, right? There's it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, and I'm just super excited that all of you are here. So I want you to take this hour for yourself. So I ask that you get some note paper and a quiet spot where you can just take some time alone and just kind of process some things here tonight. And so with that said, let's get started. So my first question to you is, I want you to tell me in the chat, and so I can see that, where are you in this journey? So there is no right or wrong answer. And regardless of where you are, you're in the right place tonight, okay? So are you just in the beginning? Are you newly estranged, or maybe just starting to have some defiance issues with your son or daughter, and you're wanting to get a good grip on this before it gets worse? Or maybe you're what I call the messy middle. You've been struggling for a while now. Maybe that's you. But maybe you are someone who's had some reconnection lately, or things appear to be getting a little bit better. And the thing is, you can thrive in all of these areas. Okay. I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but you can thrive in spite of all of what is going on around you. So tell me in the chat, where are you at? So you are messy middle, 1 year in June. Kinga says messy middle. Kathy, messy. A lot of you are in the messy middle. Estrangement for 3 years, just beginning. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, you guys are going to fall into all three categories. It's very normal. So what I want to do here is I want you to know that you and your child are on a journey, but you have separate paths, okay? You're responsible for your path, and your son or daughter is responsible for theirs. But by the end of our call, my hope is that you, mom, will be entering that third category where you can see some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe not as in the natural world, like where you actually see progress, but in your heart, and you know that you can make a difference. And by doing that, it starts with you, right? It starts with you taking care of yourself as a mom, as a woman, just as a human, right? So these different emotions here, you all are familiar with them, I'm quite sure. These 10 emotions are so common for moms just like you. And so I'm curious, how many of these do you suffer with? Because I know I personally suffered with all of them, plus probably more. And these are, like I said, very common. The moms that I work with are very much dealing with these types of emotions and these types of issues. So yeah, all of it, right? So all of these are prevalent. I'm curious if there's other emotions that you would add to this. Are there things that, share those in the chat too? It's a great way for other moms to know that they're not alone on this journey in real time here tonight, in the midst of all of this pain and hurt, and to know that they're not alone is just so crucial. And clueless, huh? Yeah, guilt, anxiety, depression, confusion, hopelessness, bitterness. Yeah, there's a lot. So I guess I would like to ask you, what would your future look like without this? What would your future look like without all of this? And I know what I would say, and that would be, I believe it would look like freedom. because freedom is where it's at. Freedom is the opportunity that this is what you're going to feel when you rid the guilt, you rid the regret, the anger, the loss of identity, all of these things. So let's dive into this. You've all heard the saying, your desire to change must be greater than your desire to stay the same. I want you to imagine if you could overcome all those negative emotions and obstacles, because it is possible. And I promise you that it has happened for me and countless moms that I've worked with and that I've helped. But your desire to change must be greater, right? And it also goes for your child. Their desire to change must be greater as well. So let's be honest here. Change is hard and same is comfortable, even when it's difficult, even when it sucks. Same is comfortable. That's why people stay in bad relationships. And that's why people put up with abuse. And this is why people tolerate being disrespected, is because it's easier to stay where we're at than to make the changes. And so people don't like that. But one thing is that I do know is that change never happens inside your comfort zone. And so does that make sense to you? Okay. The problem is, what I have seen is all moms want the transformation. Like they all want the negative emotions gone. They want the negative feelings gone. But the difference between them and you, my friends, is that you are ready to do the daily work that it takes to get it done, because you are starting here today and you're feeding your brain fuel tonight and you don't even realize it, because our brains are so powerful. And believe it or not, they do listen for our cues, right? So I just wanted to mention here, at the end of our call tonight, my daughter, Holly, which some of you have read, if you're in one of my groups, some of you have read a letter from her in the past. She wrote another letter to you all, and I honestly have not even read it yet. I printed it and I put it in an envelope, and I'm going to read it at the end here tonight. So if there's tears, I know you'll understand. But I just want you to know, like, there will never be a day where I am ungrateful for our restoration. And I want you to know also that prior to this call, prior to this event, I am a woman of faith, and I prayed for all of you, and I prayed for your children. I prayed for restoration for your families. And I believe that your families will be restored as well, because God restored my family, and it's not because I'm special. He did it. If he can do it for me, he can do it for you. So I just wanted to let you know that. So let's dive in. I have an exercise for you. So, okay, bear with me here. This is a really super short exercise. It's pretty fun. So it's literally less than 2 minutes. I want you to just stay with me here. So I want you to envision that you have a lemon. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes and just follow my cue. This will just take a minute. So I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to take a moment to imagine that you are holding a fresh, bright yellow lemon in your hand. I want you to take a deep breath and imagine the zesty scent of the lemon wafting up to your nose. Can you smell the tangy citrus aroma? Now let's imagine taking a sharp knife and cutting the lemon in half. Can you see the juice starting to drip down the sides of the fruit? The bright yellow flesh inside the lemon is now exposed, and you can see the seeds nestled inside. So finally, let's imagine taking a slice of the lemon and placing it on our tongue. Can you taste the sour, tangy flavor of the lemon? Can you feel the texture of the pulp as you chew? I want you to take a moment to savor the flavor of that lemon. All right, you can open your eyes now. Okay, so I want to know, did your mouth water? Did your mouth water? I want to hear in the chat. That is, you might be thinking, what in the world? Why is this important? Why did I spend time to do this exercise? Yes, they did. Okay, good. Good, good, good. When I first did that exercise, actually, mine was at a Tony Robbins event, and I was blown away. I was blown away. So I wanted to share it with you because of a very important reason. So even though we didn't actually have the lemon to smell and cut and taste and all of that, we use our imagination, right? And so that's the power of your imagination and the wonder of our minds. So why is this important? Why did I spend time tonight to have you do this exercise? Because I know that either right now or at some point in this journey, every single one of you have imagine the worst case scenarios with your son or daughter. Yes? So when we do this, we create anxiety for ourselves, and our brains don't know the difference between real and imagined, which is crazy, but it's so true. And so when we imagine something in our mind, our brain processes that information as if it's real, the same way it would if we were actually experiencing something in the real world. So that's very interesting. So hence the reason why our thoughts are so important. All right. Okay, so I'm going to take just a couple minutes to share my story, just real briefly for those of you, just some highlights for those of you that are new to me and my work. As I mentioned, I am a mom who walked a difficult road with my own daughter for over 10 years it was. And while I always say, while her life spiraled out of control, so did mine in so many ways. And so I am going to share just a few things that were close to my heart at the time. I had gained about 70 pounds. I became addicted to alcohol. And when you look at someone on the outside, you may think that you see someone, you may think if they're healthy or unhealthy, right? Well, I may have looked a little unhealthy at the time because of my weight gain, because that wasn't typical for me, but it wasn't about the weight. It was more about what you don't see in someone. So if I'm looking at you or someone else and what I'm not seeing, what's on the inside of you that a person is not seeing, you don't see depression, you don't see addiction, right? You don't see anxiety, and you don't see a lot of fear. You don't see the fear. You don't see someone who is, super angry or full of regret or guilt. And I was overcome with all of that, including being suicidal. And so when you look at someone, I just encourage you, as you know, for those of us dealing with this, there is a lot of immense pain. That's right. And I just want you to know that I was a girl who saw no way out. And I was someone who had to have control over everything. And I think it's because I had no control over myself. And so, like many of you feeling this way, I look at old photos now and it brings tears to my eyes because I thank God I don't know that girl anymore. But if I could tell her something now, when you look back, I really would say that I'm sorry I didn't take care of you, and that, your family will be restored, and to not be shameful and to not be afraid to reach out for help. And one of the biggest things is we need to stop pretending that we're okay when we're not. And I know a lot of you are doing that because I know I sure did. And I would say 95% of the moms I work with started that way too. So I was grateful. Obviously we have the restoration. We've been restored for 3 years now. But I did go through periods of estrangement with her. And honestly, there were times where I didn't know if she was dead or alive. And I have spoken with some of you or some moms in general that are going through the same type of thing. So I was so unaware of what was going on in her life. And I was so convinced in my mind, like the lemon story, that I was going to get a phone call that she wasn't going to make it. And to the point where I actually went to a funeral home in our local town and found out what I would need to do when I got that phone call. Now that is talk about not being able to control your thoughts, right? I was very, very much not very good at that. Can promise you that. So when moms come to me, there's not much I haven't experienced. I'm not a therapist. I'm a mom. I'm a coach, and I'm honored to help you here tonight. Okay, so let's dive into our topic. So these 3 lies are what I believe are holding a lot of you back. Not only because that's how I felt, but with the countless moms that I've helped, these are prevalent. These are prevalent almost across the board, if not all 3, at least one, right? For each person. It's just inevitable to have these types of emotions. So I thought it would never change. I thought my family would never be restored. That God only restores other families, not mine, right? So early on, I believed that I could fix my daughter. After all, I'm mom, right? I'm the fixer. I can fix anything. I solved all the problems when she was young. So why can't I fix this? So when I realized I couldn't fix it, then I believed it must have been all my fault. So I'm responsible for her behavior and choices, which was false, but that's what I believed. And some of you might be believing that as well. So we're going to dive into each of these. And like I said, these are 3 common lies that held me back and quite likely are holding you back as well. Okay, number 1, the belief that the situation with your adult child will never change. Change is always possible. And it's one of those things where, as listed here, it could be someone who overcame addiction, mental health issues. These could be you. These could be your son or daughter. It could be other people overcome difficult relationships, financial hardships. All of these things are possible. But they seem impossible, but they're not. And so for those of you that are estranged from your kids, I want to acknowledge your feeling of, I may never talk to my child again. And that is a very real thought that a lot of you are having. And when you haven't seen your kids for a long time, it seems realistic, like a realistic thought, right? So some of you are feeling that way right now, and I get it. But I want you to share in the chat, what are some things in your own life from the past that you have changed? Something you thought you could never get through. Maybe it was a divorce or a job loss or a custody battle or a death of a loved one. Sometimes we need to recall those really hard things that we've already accomplished because you have the power to change. We don't give ourselves enough credit for that. Divorce and bankruptcy. Yeah, exactly. Hi, Sharon. Abusive marriage, alcohol, getting out of a bad relationship. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to tell you a story here. People grow and change throughout their lives, right? And it's possible that your child may have a change of heart or a change in circumstances that leads to a positive shift in your relationship. So I want to share this story of hope. So I worked with a mom, it was like 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and she had zero hope of reconciliation with her daughter. Like it had been nearly 1 year or maybe a little more since they had actually talked. And one day out of the blue, her daughter texted her and said something to the effect of, "I'm sorry, Mom, life is too short for this. And can we talk soon?" Right? So she was thrilled, obviously. So, oh my gosh, she contacted me right away. So long story short, what happened was the daughter had had a change of heart. Now remember, they have had no contact for over 1 year. The daughter had a change of heart on her own. She had worked for an organization, I think it was FEMA or something like that, where she had witnessed the aftermath of a hurricane or a natural disaster. And she had told her mom that she stood there looking at the devastation and it made her feel so small. And she realized that life is too short to have bitterness and conflict. And so you see, this had nothing to do with her mom. This was an outside influence. And so sometimes the outside influences will be situations and sometimes they'll be people. But most often, it's not going to be you. You're not going to be the one to make them change. And so that was a really amazing story for her. And they are reconciled since that time. So that was great. So what do you do about all of this? So we need to focus on what you can control. How many of you feel out of control because you can't control your adult child? Because so many of us had so much control at one point that we didn't know how to break that. We didn't know how to break that tie. So don't be embarrassed. I mean, it's okay. There's no shame in any of this, right? We need to stop trying to control our adult child's decisions, right? They're going to make their own choices, even if you don't agree with them. And they do have every right to make their own choices because they are adults, right? And sometimes we logically know that. We know that they're adults. We know that we don't have the control, but it's the act of letting go that is so difficult sometimes. So another thing that I see moms do a lot is they try to control the career goals of their adult child, because if they don't align with the mom's expectations. So that's another aspect that I see moms try to control. And majority of the time, it really is out of a good heart. You know, it's one of those things that it's not like you're trying to be completely obnoxious about it. It's just, it ends up causing such havoc in the relationship. So another is respecting your adult child's parenting decisions. How many of you are grandparents? I know a lot of you are. So that is something that is very difficult sometimes. You know, you don't want to interfere or criticize their choices as far as parenting. Usually we tend to parent differently than we were parented. I know I did, right? We always try to make up for what we did or didn't have. And then the next generation does the same thing. Majority of the time, I would like to hope that it's all in good will and good, you know, people trying to be good parents. There's times where it's not, right? We all know that. But trying to respect their decisions, whether we like them or not. So it's really time to give them back the control of their own lives. And maybe for some of you, it's for the very first time. And if that's the case, I mean, it's time for you to start controlling your life again and let go of theirs. Another huge piece here to this is seeking support. So we all know how important that is. Seeking support is crucial. And tonight, for some of you, this is a brand new start, right? This is a great start for some of you. Support from others who can relate is so crucial, because talking with other moms who have experienced similar challenges can be so comforting and reassuring, because you know you're not alone. That is the number one thing that I hear from moms on a daily basis. The new moms that I talk to, I thought I was alone in this. You know, it's just, it breaks my heart, because you're never alone in anything. Sometimes it feels that way, but we're not. And that right there is the reason I do what I do, because I didn't have support. I didn't have a support group. I didn't have, you know, I had friends who I wore out for all my talking, but I didn't have the support system that I now provide. Because emotional support, right? We need the support from people that can understand. We need the emotional piece without fear of judgment, because you're on a roller coaster. And when you're going up and down, you need somebody who's going to be able to calmly walk that roller coaster with you until you're ready to get off. Also, the encouragement and motivation is so important too. So a group can provide you with that, as well as seeing others overcome, you know, similar challenges is very rewarding and inspiring and uplifting. And speaking of that, I saw some names on here. So I just want to shout out to my moms in my Grit and Grace membership, my coaching program. So that group of ladies embodies all of these things and more. They're absolutely amazing. Another thing when it comes to seeking support is you want to make sure that your personal growth, you're seeking support to get personal growth, that it's not just to have a support system that is going to hear the negativity or the complaining or, you know, where you never want to get out of that pit that you're sitting in, because that is not going to serve you long-term. Okay. And then reduced isolation and loneliness. That's another one. I hear so many moms, and it breaks my heart when I hear and I see and I witness the isolation and how lonely and how they have no support. And some of you, like I said, are reaching out here for tonight. This might be your very first time even learning about me. This may be the first time you've reached out for support in anything related to this. So I just give you so much credit for that. So I just want to congratulate you on that. And also, you want to be open to new possibilities. So being open-minded is so crucial. Instead of, it's easy for us to stick to what's familiar and comfortable. And like open-minded moms like you, obviously you're here, so you're open-minded. You're willing to consider new ideas and new approaches. And that might mean trying out new parenting strategies. So, which is focusing on what we can control. So trying new things, embracing change. Like I said, nothing happens, change doesn't happen inside our comfort zone, right? So I want you to ask yourself, what is working in your life and what is not? What is not working is going to come to mind probably faster because we already know, we just don't want to really admit it. And if you're comfortable, put it in the chat. I would love to hear. Just be honest, what is working and what is not working? What do you need help with and what's going great? So embracing all these new experiences and exploring new ideas, these things are so crucial. Yeah, losing sleep. Oh, right. Your garden. That's awesome. That's good. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, everybody. All right. Practicing acceptance. So practicing acceptance means acknowledging and accepting the reality of our adult children's lives and circumstances rather than trying to control or change them. Now, I just want to repeat that. It's acknowledging and accepting the reality. It doesn't mean you agree. A lot of times people think acceptance just means you have to agree. So accepting your adult children's choices is not easy. There's some of you that are really struggling with some of that, and I get it. Practicing that they have the right to make their own choices, even if they don't align with our expectations or wishes. And I know that can be difficult, right? But rather than trying to continue to control, it involves respecting their decisions, even when we don't like them. Even when we don't like them. I'm sure there's probably some decisions we've made that maybe they don't like either, right? Somewhere along the line. But letting go of expectations is going to be key here because practicing acceptance also means letting go of expectations and assumptions about what your adult children should be doing or achieving. So instead of imposing our expectations on them, we want to recognize that they are on their own path. Like I said earlier, you're on your path, they're on theirs. And it's going to look quite possibly different than what you imagined. And so let's be honest, that's probably all of you or you wouldn't be here, right? So, and lastly, respecting boundaries. And this goes both ways. It really does. Because practicing acceptance means respecting their boundaries. If you are in a situation where they've asked you for a pause, pause tends to be the new word that many moms are hearing from their adult kids. They're saying that, they want you to respect their boundaries, but they're not really wanting to respect yours. So that's a whole nother situation, but allowing them to set their limits, and you have every right to set your limits, right? So accepting it goes both ways. But again, you can only control your side of the journey. So listen, you don't have to do this, but you are going to remain out of control until you do, because especially when it comes to expectations, when it comes to acceptance. All right. Let's see here. Number 2, the belief that you can change your child. I know so many of you are dealing with that. So many of you are dealing with that. And that is a misconception as well. It says moms may hold the belief that you have the power. We think we have the power, and the belief stems from just the love and attachment. So whether you gave birth to this child or you adopted them, like you love them with all your heart, obviously. And that's why it's so painful. So they do develop into their own values and beliefs, and we're going to talk more about that. So from birth to adulthood. So like I said, we carry these children in our womb or adopt them. But we care for them 100%. That's our job, right? We're responsible for these humans, and we're responsible for their safety. We're responsible for feeding them, their education, all of these things, and all of it. And so most moms, and including myself, we forget that there is a time to start letting go. So if we look back, and now we're talking about adult children here. So if you look back, did you ever allow them to start making some mistakes? Did you ever allow them to start, doing some making mistakes or making their own decisions while they were still under your roof? I know I did the same thing, and I skipped that step, not intentionally. But if I could have a do-over, that would be one of them. That is not to say you should beat yourself up for that. I can honestly say I did do that. I did a lot of things that I wish I wouldn't have done or said, but I can't go back, and neither can you. And so there's life is too short to hold on to that and beat yourself up over that. You are not meant to carry shame or guilt any longer. And that starts right here for those of you that have never worked through that. Making the transition of the birth to adulthood it's hard. It's difficult. We're moms, right? But I tried to control, and not for the wrong reasons, but that was my way I showed love, was to just take care of everything. And so is this you? Did you deal with this too? Just say yes in the chat if that was you. Just curious if you guys dealt with that too. So yeah, right. Parenting is not easy. That's right. Okay. So change must come from within. So this belief that you can change your child is false, right? Change must come from within for everybody, for you, for me, all of you, all of us. So true change can only come in because it requires a personal commitment and a willingness to make the change. So many of you are like I was, trying to change my daughter. I promise you it wasn't me that changed her. And to think that we can actually do that to another human being, you're only going to get more frustrated because it won't work. Why? Because I believe change requires self-awareness to begin with. We need to be self-aware. We need to have self-motivation. So we can start with our awareness to kind of like when I decided to quit drinking alcohol, I had to be aware that there was even a problem, right? So if a person doesn't see a problem, they're not going to change. So then it requires personal motivation to actually commit to the change. And then it takes taking responsibility for, maybe people that you've hurt in the process, or, just overcoming different obstacles and resistance and all of that. And it's easier said than done, but it can be done. But it's when it gets hard. Overcoming resistance is when it gets hard. So for me with alcohol, maybe that's you, or maybe it's food, or maybe it's shopping, it's finances, whatever it is for you, whatever your go-to is. In order for that to change, here we're talking about you and your child here. The change must come from within. So change can lead to personal growth long-term, 100%, absolutely. And yes, it's challenging, but it leads to that personal growth and development. And so by embracing all of that, you can become a better version of yourself, and your life is going to be better and more fulfilling in the process. So I hope that now you can process the fact that you can't change your child. As good as your intentions are, it's not going to happen. And the thing is, sometimes people change for us. A lot of times that happens in relationships, but it never lasts. It's not a lasting change, because our job is to change us. Our job is to change us. All right. So we want to focus on what we can control. On this one, I want you to think about how you can control yourself. So moms feel so out of control that I think sometimes it's good to be reminded of what you can control, right? We always focus on what we can't, but what can you control? You can control your mindset, which, here we go. You're never going to forget that lemon story. As a mother, we have control over our own mindset. We have control over our own perspective. And you get to choose to focus on the positive or negative. We talk about this in my group all the time. Where are you framing your thoughts? You need to, if you're going to the negative, because you can find both, and you can find the good and bad in every situation, especially the bad. It's easy to find the bad. But if you can focus on the good, that will help you, and to reframe those thoughts and look at that like I don't have a frame here, but a picture frame. So you take a picture, you buy a frame because you want to showcase it, right? You put a frame around it, you want to focus on it. Same thing, you need to do that with your thoughts, okay? The good ones. You also can control your own behavior. So while you can't control their behavior, you have control over your own, and that's empowering, right? So you get to work on being the best person you can be, a good role model. Maybe your adult child isn't even in your life at the moment. So I'm not saying be a good role model for them, but just be the person that you want to be. Be the person who just to love yourself and to be that role model for others, whether it be other girls or boys that maybe you volunteer or whatever it is, someone, your daughter's friends or, all of these things, these people come into our lives that we can influence in such a positive way. And we tend to be so focused on us on the inside and our pain that we don't look at what's in front of us on the outside. You also can control your own reactions because, we can't control everything in our relationship with our kids, but you have control, however, how you react to it. So you can choose to respond with empathy, with understanding, with patience, even when things get difficult. I'm just going to tell you a really brief story here. There's a mom that I'm working with that she has had recently a reconnection with one of her kids. And there's a time and a place where you listen, where you tolerate disrespect. And I don't mean badgering. I don't mean full out disrespect. But when someone needs to be heard, sometimes there might be a little of that fluff in the beginning of the conversation where we just need to listen. And sometimes they need to do the listening too, right? But I'm talking about this example here. She was able to do that. It was a day where she felt strong enough to be able to handle that. She tolerated it for a bit of time where normally she might have ended the call. But the interesting part is I think her daughter needed to get a bunch of stuff out. And now they're starting to speak again. So there are times when people need to be heard. And it doesn't give them the license to disrespect you by any stretch. I don't agree with that at all. But I also know that there's a time, and think about a marriage, right? If you're married, you're going to argue with your husband. It doesn't mean you don't love him, but you say things you don't mean sometimes. And our kids are no different. They're human, right? So we need to focus on what we can control. But our reactions are super important. And another is the communication, right? So communication in any relationship obviously is so important. So your self-care as well. It's you have the ability to do all of this. And acceptance and love. So they're crucial for building any healthy relationship, right? With anyone, including your adult child. But rather than trying to change your child, I encourage you to do things that encourages them, the acceptance and the love when you have the opportunity. So once again, I want you to know that I understand 100% that there are things that go against how you raise them, your beliefs, all of these things. I'm not saying you need to accept and love what they're doing. You don't have to agree. You don't have to change your belief system. But maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. But what I do know is I've seen too many relationships go sour because the mom refuses to accept that maybe their son or daughter isn't living the life they had hoped for them right then and there. And I'm not referring to anything related to abuse. Okay. I'm talking about accepting where they're at. And because acceptance fosters trust. And when you can earn some trust back after you've had like a rocky time, you can earn some trust back to where you're not that one topic parent and you can actually have conversations with them where they can be themselves and without fear of judgment or rejection. You need to have a support system outside of that to be able to, share all the stuff that you want to share, because I know that it's going to be driving you crazy, and that's okay. But when you're in front of your kid, when you're in front of your adult child and you're having to deal with that, if you want to have a relationship with them, there comes a point where you have to have acceptance of where they're at right now. But one thing I do know is just because it's where they're at right now, it does not mean that's where they're going to stay. And I can promise you that. All right. So the last one here is number 3. You think you're responsible for your adult child's behavior and choices. Logically, we know this. Emotionally is where it gets us because we think we must be responsible, right? Because we're mom. So your child is an adult, and the ultimate goal with our adult kids is not having the mother-child relationship. You don't need to mother anymore, right? That's the goal. They're adults now, and they're living their own life. Ideally, to have a sort of a friendship, a common ground based on respect is super important, obviously, and that goes both ways. So the roles have shifted whether we like it or not. So if we can shift with the roles, it's going to help us. So those of you that are estranged, I want to acknowledge your feelings of grief and loss because I know that it's natural to feel that sadness and confusion and guilt and all the feels, but I encourage you to be gentle with yourself because, these tips still apply to you as well. But our kids do have individual responsibility. They are totally responsible for their own choices. They're an adult. You not only you get to be a quote unquote friend with them. Hopefully that's the ultimate goal when you're reconciled. So you're not telling them what to do. You're not giving them all the unsolicited advice that they don't want. And but they have that individual responsibility. But these choices, these things that happen, they have consequences to them. And if they're bad choices, they're going to have a consequence. And those are not yours to solve. So we want to respect boundaries. I want you to have, clear, defined boundaries that allow your kids to take ownership of their own lives. But both of you having boundaries in a sense, not that some of your kids are using that word with you, but not all of you. But they're getting that. If they're getting any therapy, that's probably what they're hearing. So another thing is you are not to blame for everything. So you think you're responsible for their behavior, but you're not to blame for everything. Okay. So it's easy to blame someone else when we're hurting inside. And many of your children have told you that they blame you for everything that has ever happened in their life. And I am really sorry that that is happening. But I've talked to many of you that are dealing with that. But I want you to remember something, that their perception is their reality. Okay. So they need to grow and change. You force anybody to blame everything in their life on another human, whether it's their mother, father, friend, whoever, that just speaks to the volume of pain and hurt inside of them. So that has nothing to do with you. Doesn't mean you were a perfect parent. None of us are perfect parents. It's okay. But parenting is very complex. I mean, I don't know about you, but mine didn't come with a manual because I would have needed 2 separate manuals because they are very individual, right? I needed to parent them very differently, which I didn't. So, I thought of something when I was putting this together and, it's no wonder women are having babies at 40 because think how much smarter we are at this age. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in my 20s, I wasn't so smart. So anyway, I don't know about you, but that's not for me now. Okay. So, and lastly, recognize the limits of your influence. Your power of personal experience, your child's experience, your perspectives, their perspectives, they're going to differ, right? So the limits of your influence, you may be thinking, that there's, how do I say, each person's life journey is unique, right? And so you need to appreciate the influence. They're going to have personal experiences. You're going to have experiences that they didn't have that maybe you can't even relate to with them. But recognize the importance of mutual respect. And this is where you put up your boundaries and around your life to protect your own mental and sometimes physical health. So lastly here, I want to focus on supporting your child. So it's really important that we want to support them as much as possible. It doesn't mean supporting them financially. It doesn't mean enabling them. It doesn't mean any of that. But it's really important that if we can help support them, like I said, not financially, emotionally, and with love during periods of time where they are willing to actually, where there's kindness and there's respect. Number one, respect, and no emotional or physical abuse. Physical abuse, I have zero tolerance for. Emotional abuse, disrespect, all of that. There needs to be some boundaries and some fine lines set up. So, other than that, you do want to focus on supporting them as much as possible. Okay, so this will prevent you from taking steps forward otherwise, right? You are not going to move forward in your own life if you're stuck enabling and doing all these things and not having boundaries and getting lost in your own life. And that can create a sense of powerlessness, which also known as giving up. Okay. We have external influences on our adult child's behavior. There's a lot of external influences. Look at social media, right? Social media, all the things, our kids are getting it younger and younger. So you may be dealing with grandchildren with dealing with that, but also the influences of the bullying, like I said, social media, just the different culture things that are going on right now that are affecting your kids. Okay. So these are the types of emotions that, what would your life look like if you were full of these emotions instead? Hope, resilience, empowerment, gratitude, all these things. What would it look like? I want to introduce my new course. It's called Struggle to Strength. And it is an opportunity for you to contact with me. It's a course to help you get from where you're at right now to strength, right? To strength. I want you to, we are starting on May 24th. There's going to be live calls. The course is self-paced. You would have like a username and password for the online course, but then we are going to have weekly live calls with Q&A with me. And I will answer all your questions related to that particular week's assignments. So the daily assignments will be self-paced. So they're very practical things that you can start doing immediately. And we will be working through all the self-reflections together. And each week will look that way. We'll have 2 weeks of doing that. We'll take a break so you can get caught up and focus on the to-dos. And then we'll do another 2 weeks. So we'll have 4 total calls. There is a private Facebook group you would have access to with just these moms as well. And I just wanted to share with you a few testimonials. So this is a mom that I worked with. And she says, I can say sincerely, Sally's support came at just the right moment in time. I had always been what I would describe as a strong, committed, and purposeful mom. I read all the recommended books and believed nothing would ever separate me from a full relationship with my girls. I'm forever grateful that Sally was there to encourage me through situations I was in no way prepared to navigate. Her experience especially equipped her to provide practical, thought-provoking suggestions. Her support enabled me to gain control over my emotions and carefully consider my reaction to my daughter's overall experience. Sally shared tools that helped me communicate better and move toward the path of restoration. What I've learned has strengthened me truly in every area of my life. I can now say that I am genuinely grateful for the opportunity this has provided. And this is Ginger, an amazing mom that's in my group and that I worked with one-on-one. I have another one with JP. Thankfully, by the grace of God, I came across Sally's videos on YouTube. When I realized I could reach out and work with her directly, I immediately contacted her and have been working with Sally to turn my life around. She has been a calm, confident, and encouraging voice of reason. She has offered ideas on how to handle specific situations with my daughter that would never have come to mind otherwise. In addition, Sally helped me shift my focus onto my own physical, mental, and emotional well-being. I've learned how to take care of myself again. The challenges with my daughter still exist, but I'm able to manage my reactions in a much healthier way while maintaining my own sanity. So I wanted to go back here. The second option here for the course, so you can purchase the course, or there's also another add-on. It's called Boxer. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that. That is a unlimited communications between us. And so this is a testimonial on the Boxer, because I currently only do that with my one-on-one clients. but I wanted to incorporate it into this as well. So she says, the ability to communicate via Voxer has had an enormous impact on me. Voxer feels like a mental, emotional lifeline. Being able to express my thoughts in the moment, sometimes in a very dark, emotional hour, has constantly saved me. Having Sally's advice at my fingertips via Voxer has been incredibly impactful, a game changer. Other family members also recognize how Sally has saved my sanity and put me on a healthier path. They have witnessed how I would instantly calm down after talking to Sally on Voxer. Often while discussing a problem regarding my daughter with my mom or husband, they would ask, have you talked to Sally about it yet? They essentially knew that getting Sally's advice would be the best way. So she's grateful, the whole family is. And this is also from JP. And so, this is an opportunity with Voxer to have that one-on-one real-time communication, which I have found in my one-on-one coaching when I have that with clients. It's priceless. It really is. I get to know them so much better and know the situation so much better and can help in real time. So I just wanted to share that. This is a testimony for my membership. I will just move on. Sharon, she belongs to my membership. We did one-on-one coaching. So we need each other so we don't feel alone and isolated as we continue to glean from the wisdom Sally pours into us. So she's amazing too. I've got the best moms. So my Struggle to Strength course, you can look at that. To work with me one-on-one is nearly $1,000 for a month. I want to make a greater impact so I can help more moms just like you. And I'm getting away from the one-on-one, as my mission is to help as many moms as I can. And with this course, I can do that. So the course is $497, and you can see I have payment plans available. And so if you want the Voxer access, that second option there, that is an additional $197, which is normally priced at $297. So this is an investment for you and your family. And if you purchase tonight, I just want you to know you'll receive a free one-on-one call with me as well, just to reward those of you that are here live and investing in yourself. So I'm super proud of you. So there is that. And so, yeah, if you purchase by midnight, you'll receive a free one-on-one. And you can go to the course. Just go to sally-harris.com/course, and you can go ahead and that's where you can get the course. And I'm here to answer any questions you have in the chat. All right. And then I'm going to read this. I will be answering questions here, but I'm going to read this letter from my daughter. And then we will wrap up after your questions. All right. Whew. All right. Dear moms, I am writing you a quick letter to let you know that although you may feel like you are all alone and there is nothing that is going to make your situation better, you have got to take care of yourself. To be honest, when I was living an unhealthy, dangerous, and disconnected lifestyle, I had no idea how it affected my family, especially my mom. It wasn't until after I came home that I truly understood how my decisions affected more than just me. I tell you this because although you may be feeling that your child is doing is out of spite or to hurt you, in most circumstances, that is not actually the case. After learning that my mom had let herself go and allowed alcohol to control her life for so many years, I felt horrible. Not because her decisions were my fault, as we cannot control anyone but ourselves, but because my mom loves me so much and I knew that my actions had hurt her, to the point where she didn't know how else to cope. My mom has come such a long way, and the best part is she is working on herself, getting healthy physically and emotionally before I decided to do the same. That is the best thing she could have ever done. I was in prison when my mom started working on herself, and hearing the change in her voice, the feeling that she wasn't dependent on wanting to fix me, that she couldn't live her life without me, made me want to come home. Maybe call it reverse psychology, but when she didn't need to obsess over my situation anymore, that made me want to change and live a life that is healthy, safe, and connected with my family. That is by far the best decision I have ever made in my life, as we have never been closer as a family. Remember, this took 10 years to happen, so don't lose hope. But I hope you can see the importance of working on yourself, as you can only control you, and you will never be able to control your adult child. Getting their life together is a decision that they will have to make for themselves, and it will have nothing to do with the fact that you want them to do it. Very true. I am excited that you are all here taking a step towards wanting more for yourself. Don't stop now. I pray that one day you will have a story similar to my mom and I's, where you can know that your willingness to change made it that much easier for your child to do the same. I hope this has motivated you at least a little bit, Holly. So that was beautiful. We'll thank her for that. I'm doing the questions here now. So any questions you have regarding the course as well, I'd be happy to answer anything. Is your daughter aware, Natalia, is your daughter aware you are telling her story? If so, how does she think about it? Yes, she is aware of that. She plays a big part actually in my ministry, my business here as well. So she's very much aware of it and she's okay with it. And we've actually done some interviews together and things like that. So is there a support group here? I have my membership support group, but you would have a support group within this course as well, Christina. There would be the private Facebook group that would be available for you, obviously. And then if you chose the Voxer, you would have the one-on-one with me as well. But yes, you would have a support group. So there's 2 ways to do support group, through the course. And then I also have a membership. Mary says the Grit and Grace group has been an amazing support system. So thankful for Sally's leadership and each woman in the group. Love you, Mary. Thank you for being here. Kinga, what is the name of the group? My group is Grit and Grace. And where is the Grit and Grace group? So I join. That is something that we would do a discovery call if we've never chatted before. And so you can actually check it out on my website. That would be great. And then you can just click on discovery call and schedule that. Adriana, I have a question. Is it common for men to handle it so differently? Yes, 100%. My husband handled it completely differently, to the point, and it caused a lot of friction in our marriage because I didn't understand. I always felt like he didn't care, because men can compartmentalize that. And I deal with, I hear of that constantly with moms that I work with. It is very common. And that's why you need a support group away from family. Not that you can't talk to family about the situation, other family and all of that, but there comes a time where it's not even good for your marriage. One tip that I would have for you there, Adriana, is we got to the point where we would limit it, where I was only able to talk about the situation for 10 or 15 minutes, a couple days a week, because otherwise it consumed every conversation I had. Adriana, how do you feel about stop trying to reach out? Yeah, I think there's a time and a place. I do. I think it depends on the situation. And again, I don't do a cookie cutter approach. I don't believe in that. Every situation, every family's different. But stopping reaching out sometimes is what it takes, because depending on what's going on and why the estrangement is happening to begin with, sometimes you know and sometimes you don't know. So I'm not saying that you do for sure know. But yes, there's definitely a time and a place. There's also a time and a place to write a letter. Not everybody likes to do that. I've had several of them work for moms that I've helped them write. Others, not so much, but it depends on the child and how receptive they're going to be. All right. Lynn says, what about the child that you can't talk to because they don't respond to anything? Well, that would be a definite time where if you can't get them to respond to anything, I would take a pause, because something is going on to where they're not wanting to communicate. And so I would also really make sure that you limit the reach outs, because sometimes, when I know this from personal experience and what I see a lot of moms do, is we try to reach out so much and we're so continuous about it that it gets annoying for them. And I don't know what other way to say it. It really does. It gets annoying, and they don't want that. They don't want to feel bombarded. They just want the acceptance. They want just the reality, you facing the reality of what is right now. But remember, it's not always forever. Let's see. Sir, do you have any questions about? Okay. Jen says, how do we set the boundaries on emotionally abusive comments? You delete them. I would not respond to them because you're fueling the fire. And just remember, you don't have to participate in every fight you're invited to. And that's pretty much sometimes what it looks like. And so, no, I would not participate in that. Christine, it would be nice to hear more about those who have experienced physical and verbal abuse from their adult child with a mental health issue. So, Christine, as I mentioned, I am not a therapist, but I have worked with a lot of moms who have a son or daughter that are dealing with mental health issues. And obviously, I would recommend you talk to a therapist about that. But at the end of the day, my experience with what I've experienced with moms that I've helped is you sort of treat that the same way you would an addiction. Like you still do not deserve to be mistreated. You still do not deserve to be disrespected. Now, your child doesn't deserve to be disrespected either. So make sure that it's going both ways, right? We want to make sure that we're not being the disrespecter. And so, but there are I've got some moms in my group too that have sons and daughters that are dealing with different mental health issues, and they need to take care of themselves. And that's where I come in here. This is where the course comes in. This is where all my work comes in. This is to help you as the mom. So Karen says, it's Mother's Day weekend. How do we handle the silent treatment? It's hard, isn't it? That is difficult. I encourage you on Mother's Day to remember, and I always give this tip to my ladies in my group too, on any holiday. Holidays are difficult, but I want you to remember that it is another day. It's another 24 hours. And you need to do something for yourself. And so this Mother's Day, I would encourage you to go ahead and do something for you, something that you enjoy, and you may get the silent treatment. And Monday morning, you're going to wake up and it's a new day because you might get the silent treatment on Saturday. You might get it on Monday. So don't let Sunday be any different for your own sanity. Sky says, is there any scholarships available? I don't have scholarships, Sky, but I do have, there is payment plans available. If you go to sallyharris.com/course, you will see all the information there. All right. How much time is needed for the daily assignments? Amy says. Daily assignments, I would say, would be, there's 5 assignments per week. So I would say about 30 minutes a day or so, depending how in-depth you want to answer the questions. So there's several bonuses in there as well that it's going to give you opportunity to dig deeper. But at a minimum, I would say 30 minutes. And then you have that full week to do 5 days. And then we would follow up with that live call together and to answer any questions and talk through any of that. Thanks, Amy. What else we got here? Suzanne says, what if you're afraid of the call on Mother's Day? Well, I'm not sure why you're afraid of it, but if you're that afraid of it, maybe don't answer. I think if they're calling because they want to wish you happy Mother's Day, I'm not sure why you would be afraid of that because I don't know your situation, but definitely if it's because you think you're going to be emotionally abused somehow, I definitely wouldn't answer the phone. All right. Lauren, is there a more affordable option? Yes, there is absolutely the payment plans available. Also, if you're interested in membership, that is a less expensive option. And you can go to my website and click Discovery Call, and you can set up a time to chat with me about that. And let's see, any other questions? Can we find each other on Instagram? Yes, I'm under Sally Harris Coach. Sally Harris Coach. All right. Any other questions? Grandkids. That's difficult. Absolutely, Suzanne. What about the grandkids? I don't want them to think I abandoned them. They were so close. Yeah, I I personally haven't dealt with that, thank goodness, but I have a lot of moms that I work with that do, and it's also one of those things that it's out of your control because your son or daughter is the parent, and so we're just really, I one tip I know that some moms do is they'll journal and something in hopes that they will give that to the child one day or set up a saving if you're not allowed to give Christmas gifts or birthday gifts. Some moms would set up an account, a little savings account, and put money in that for them versus because we aren't able to give a gift. So they do that. So then when they're older, they know that you've been thinking about them this whole time. And I pray that it doesn't, last that long, but at least it would be something to help you know that you're doing something for them. All right. Christine says it would be nice to hear about those who have experienced physical. Okay, yeah, we did that one. All right, about the mental health issue. Yeah. Sarah, hi Sarah. She says my son is living abroad and he has me blocked on everything. I will be in town during summer and would love to stop by and see him. What are your thoughts? Yeah, if he's out of the country now, I would definitely see if he is willing to have a conversation, willing to meet. I wouldn't just pop in, but maybe try to set up that time where you can actually be together. That would be great. Sheila says, what if they want nothing to do with us and want no support? Well, again, I don't know the situation. I don't know the details about it, so it's hard to say. But I do think that there might be a time where you feel like they don't want anything to do with you, and for whatever reason, there could be a lot of things in play here. So if they don't want the support, then I guess I wouldn't give them the support because they're asking you to not give it in that case. So in that case, you would be respecting that boundary that they have for you because it does. Again, it goes both ways. So, all right. Elizabeth says, do you know of any cases of parental alienation that have a positive outcome? Yes, me. My daughter had nothing to do with us, the family, for quite some time. And we're living proof that things can change. Things can change. And like the story I shared earlier about the client that I had, whose daughter, she had her own experience because of something that happened at her workplace out in the field. And that was an amazing thing because it was an opportunity had nothing to do with the mom. It was all the daughter. It was all herself. And so she was able to reach out. So that was good. So, all right. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions about the course or anything, I will let you go. I just want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I value your time. I know we went over a little bit over the hour, but if there's anything that I can do to serve you in any way, you can go to my website and it has all my information on there. So I will see you soon. Take care.